More than 30,000 men and women are released from prison in Illinois every year. And for them, life on the outside can be almost as challenging as their time on the inside. Gerald Schultz is an ex-felon trying to adjust to life on the other side of the bars. He's also a recovering addict. He says his troubles started as a young man growing up in a home with alcoholic parents.
I started drinking a lot and going out to clubs and things like that. But it really didn't affect my, it wasn't affecting me as far as work or my personal life or anything like that until later on when I started messing around with drugs, which was probably around 24, 25 years old, and I started doing cocaine.
The money Schultz used to bring home as a waiter was not enough to feed his habit. Soon, he says he was doing whatever it took to get more cash for his drugs.
A couple of my dealers, said that they wore certain brand names of clothing and that if I could get it, they'd take it off my hands. So I became a booster and started stealing from stores. And that's where my dealing with the Illinois Department of Corrections started to come into play.
Schultz's criminal record has made it tough for him to get, and in some cases, to keep a job. It's a struggle many ex-felons face. Some even get so desperate they try to hide their criminal history from prospective employers.
I did get a job just recently, and I wasn't honest about it. They did a background check, and they saw that I had 5 felonies, and they called me and they said, "We're sorry, we just can't have you here."
But there are some employers who are willing to give returning citizens like Schultz a chance. Tom Decker, owner of Chicago Green Insulation, is one of those employers.
I think the reality is that we need to think of opportunities for individuals who come in and say that they want a job without holding them back based upon their past any more than we're held up based upon our past.
Since starting his company 3 years ago, Decker has hired 12 ex-felons. He says he's seen what having a job can do for these men.
One of the individuals said to me that he's got a wife and a couple of little kids, and the moment that he hops in the car in the morning to drive to the job site is the moment the stress ends in his life, because he knows that he's got a job working for an individual who's going to judge him based upon his production.
And a note of good news here, Gerald Schultz was recently hired as a server at a restaurant in downtown Chicago. So Nellie, how important is it for these men and women to get jobs quickly after they get out of prison?
Well, I don't say quickly at a safe haven because there are reasons, that they're arrested and that they're in crisis and they're being referred to our program. So what we do at a safe haven is we take the time to understand what are the social determinants that led the individual to that situation. So if they do have a drug problem, it's really important to get them into a treatment program, get them into the right job readiness training program so that employers are ready to hire people that are really ready to work.
Philip, how difficult is it for them to get jobs?
It's very difficult. Many people are released from the Department of Corrections with gate money, which may be $5 and a bus ticket back to wherever you were sent from, and that's about it, not even a toothbrush. So little things that people take for granted that you need to get a job in other services like a state ID, transportation, the clothes to wear. It's a tremendous challenge for people.
Bryant, the structure and responsibility that comes with a job, do they fit into a rehabilitation for someone coming out of prison?
It's absolutely necessary. Most return to crime will actually happen in the first year after release from prison. So the sooner you find a job, the easier it will be to stay out of crime going forward. And also considering the fact that, there are many neighborhoods in Chicago where most adult age working males have criminal records. We can't leave these people locked out of legal labor markets.
How do you convince employers to hire these men and women? Nellie, you deal with that.
We do it all the time. We actually had over 1,000 people placed in jobs last year, many of them ex-offenders. And the good news is when they come to a safe haven, we provide housing for them when they do re-enter society. So it's transitional housing right away. getting the right services to them, getting them the right training. Again, really important to do that on the front end, because it's really important for employers to know that the people that we're referring to them are ready to work. So for us, thankfully, we are a resource for a lot of employers that are really looking to give people a second chance without taking that extra risk, if they don't have to. It's really important to make sure that it's a good match as well.
For employers, I've got to imagine there is a certain amount of trepidation and fear in hiring people who have been in prison. How do you overcome that?
One problem that a lot of employers will bring up is negligent hiring liability. So a concern that if they hire someone who then goes on to commit a crime on the job, they'll be sued later on. And we know that about 52% of employers conduct background checks specifically because of this concern. So one thing lawmakers could do would be to change the tort system essentially to prevent these sort of lawsuits from being filed. And it doesn't happen that often, but that would go a long way to reassuring employers that they're not putting themselves at risk by giving someone a second chance.
To turn that question around, what might make a former prisoner a good employee, Philip?
Being a good employee. I know that's a simple answer, but showing up to work on time and being willing to do whatever it takes to advance and get the job done.
Could they even have more motivation than someone else?
You should. As a person coming out of prison with a felony background, you're always going to be judged differently than others, even though that's not fair. I mean, we all make mistakes. Some people get caught for them, and some people make worse mistakes than others, of course. But you have to go forward knowing that and do the best you can at the job and leave no room for error.